In a previous video, I showed how to bring a file in from SketchUp and color it in or fill it in so that you can use granite colors. But after I was done with that video, I thought, well, this actually might be a good time to talk about using layers in your designs. I typically don't use a lot of layers. I almost always stick to just a single layer. However, just to show the functionality and show you how it can be powerful to use one, what I wanted to do is open up the Object Manager here, and we'll show that in layer 1 we've got a bunch of curves here with the plus sign, and that's because it's got a lens applied to it. So all of the ones that have the plus sign are the ones that we have used for shading. And you can see how each one of them is just on top of the one below it, and that's because when I use the numeric plus sign, or the numeric keypad plus sign, it built a duplicate of each of those objects right on top of the original, and that's a benefit to using that plus sign there. However, what I wanted to show you is how we could take all of these, so I'm just going to hold Control while I click on them, and what this will do is it will select all of the ones that have, actually, let me start that over. First I'll come down here and say New Layer, and I'll type in shading for that layer name, and then I'll come back and hold down Control while I click on these. That way I can select them all. If I had done this immediately after building them, I wouldn't have had to select them this way, so it would have been easier had I just done it originally as soon as I hit the plus sign, but that's okay. Now that we've got it, I let go of Control, and I'm just going to click and drag up until I get to where it says shading. You can see the cursor changes when I get up there, and I will be throwing them onto that layer. So now I have all of my shading on the shading layer. The downside to that, as you can see, is that this part here that's the top of the base is now in front of our die. If we were to take it and hit Shift Page Down, it just goes to the bottom of the layer, which is normally what I use. We could use Object, Order to the back of page, but if you do to the back of page, then it's going to throw it back to the layer that it came from, which is not what we want to do. So what we'll do in order to fix that is we'll go ahead and just grab this one, which is the die, Shift select the base, and come up here and do a trim, and that will then trim away that little piece there. And you can see, since I've got my outlines there, that there's also a little section there. So if I grab this one, Shift select this one, and trim that as well. Then the shading for the base, if I pull it away, you'll see it is actually notched out, and so that way it can be on top of everything else and still work out. So the benefit of having this on another layer is that if we wanted to be able to select the die, the granite portion of it, not the shading, in my previous video I said how you can click on it and hold Alt and then click on it again, and that will then select down here on this other layer, or it digs down to whatever's below it. But instead of doing that, what we can do is we can just come up here and hit this lock button, and that will lock that whole entire layer. That way when I click, it's only going to select the stuff that's not unlocked, or that's not locked. So one good reason to use layers is the ability to lock them or even hide them if you wanted to hide it all at the same time. So if you did shading that showed shape carving or something like that, you could make it either visible or invisible. And I just wanted to show in this really quick video how you can use layers for shading and that sort of stuff, and have the ability to either lock or hide it. That way you can get to whatever's underneath it even faster, instead of having to dig every time. So hopefully that's informational, and we'll see you next time.